be a cat, because a cat's the only cat.
Yes, let's swing it.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
All right, it is 6 o'clock. And welcome everybody who is here. We have a really good crowd to start. I'm so glad you're here. Erin, thank you so much for being here tonight and taking your time on your day off to talk to us.
No problem. Anything for the cats.
Well, Carole, I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you have a few questions for Erin and everyone in the audience. Karen's going to ask Erin a few questions, and then once Erin is done, then we will call people up on the stage to ask questions. So just hold your questions until Carole and Erin are finished, and then we will take questions. Take it away, Carole.
Yeah, I figured Erin's probably not as good as sitting and talking to her phone as I am, so I thought it might be a little easier for her if I just ask a few questions about how she got started here at Big Cat Rescue. And as I started thinking about it, I think the reason the people in the audience might like to hear her answers is because it really became, how do you get a job at Big Cat Rescue? Or how do you get a job working with big cats, which is something people ask me all the time. So first, I want to ask you, Erin Carden, what and when did you decide to devote so much of your time to protecting big cats?
So, I had started kind of volunteering at domestic animal shelters, and I was fostering kittens for a while, and I wanted to do something more than that, and I wasn't really sure what that meant, to be honest, until I did kind of some good old-fashioned internet research, and was looking for places that I could visit or that I could help out, and my great mom was helping me, and she did a great job. She found this super awesome place called Tigers, Tigers, and thought that it was like a great idea for me to go there.
Oh no! Oh my gosh!
And I was looking at the website, and I kind of had this very strange gut feeling of maybe not so much. So I started doing research on that, and I was led to a website that we host that was, I don't know if it was 911 animal abuse or something along those lines, but it was something that led me to an article that was posted by Big Cat Rescue. So I was like, oh, well, I also didn't think this was a good idea. So obviously this place might be where I should go. So then I did more research on that, and they had an internship, and I was like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to see what that's all about. And it was learning that there are more tigers in captivity in Texas and Florida than there are in the wild. That was our huge topic that we would bring up on tours. I did not believe that. I honestly, that sounded crazy to me. That's ridiculous. I don't understand how that's possible. And that kind of put me off into this whole wormhole of, I want to help. I want to do more. I can't believe that that's a thing that people don't know about, because I had no idea.
So roughly, how old were you, and about what year was that?
2012. I think I was 20 and 21 when I kind of figured all of that out.
And so did you first come as an intern? And if so, did you come visit before you became an intern?
So yes. So to be an intern at the time, you actually had to come down for an entire weekend if you weren't in the state of Florida, to do an interview and go on tours and meet other interns and stay with them overnight. And since I was in New Jersey at the time, I came down for a weekend, and I went on all of the different tours that we offered, and I met a ton of cats, and I met all of the people, and I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. I want to be here. And I jumped right into it. And that was November of 2012, and January of 2013 I started.
And when you started with Vanessa Pye, right?
Yes.
How did that work? Were you guys friends in New Jersey, or did you know each other?
No, I would love to tell people that we were, because we both did come down from New Jersey, but no, she started about a month before I did, and that was one of the reasons I stayed to volunteer, and she did too, was because we had more to fall in love with than the cats. We all fell in love with each other as friends. We have the word soulmate to all of us means more than just like your romantic partner in life. We all became each other's family, and it was just awesome. And it happened so quickly. And we just met everybody that was, in the same headspace as us and wanted to go towards the same goal. And just, we wanted to be there forever and do all of this forever. So her and I were like, all right, cool, let's just move down here. Figure it out. And that's what we did.
Wow. We usually have anywhere from 80 to 110 volunteers and interns. And I think we're like at our lowest point since COVID hit of being somewhere around 60. But I have a bad reputation for not knowing who the volunteers are because there's so many of them and I don't interact with them every day. So for years, I couldn't call either you or Vanessa by name because I didn't know which of you was which because you were always together.
That's not just you. That's a real thing for everybody. We actually worked, so when we first wanted to move down here, we, through another volunteer, got a job at a place in Dunedin, and so we then worked at the same restaurant together for a while, and it was the same thing there. It was Erin, Vanessa, one of you, I don't know, I need your help.
I'll tell you what. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said I loved it.
I'll tell you what brought you up on my radar, and people have to really do something amazing to come up on my radar. I mean, like, not just a one-time thing, but like I have to be constantly thinking, I need to know more about this person because that is what really catches my attention. And what caught my attention was running into you and Vanessa at a animal conference, like an animal protection type conference. And I'm thinking that you had the flat little feather with you. Is that the same conference or was that a different one?
Nope, that was that one. We were doing a tour of Flat Feather, and we brought her to meet all kinds of different people who run all kinds of vegan companies and booths, and I think she met a couple of like representatives that weekend too. It was super fun.
I don't know if people remember Flat Stanley, but can you tell them what that was, how you did that?
So we followed the Flat Stanley, which I don't honestly know how that started, but our version was a little printout of a really cute bobcat that we used to have at the sanctuary named Little Feather, and we would hand her over to people and take photos with her. So she traveled all the way up from Florida to Washington, D.C., and she went with us to the conference, and she met we were working the conference at the time because you could kind of like help out promoting it, and then you could stay a little bit longer, and we did that. So she met all the guests that came in. We would like have people hold up photos with her, and it was just well, why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? Well, we can tell you. We are from Big Cat Rescue, and Little Feather wants to tell you about the Big Cat Public Safety Act, and we would talk about why it's important and who they could contact and kind of how to give them more information and all of that.
This was a time when it was really difficult for me to get any of our volunteers or even our staff to get involved in legislation because most of the people who are attracted to Big Cat Rescue come here because they want to work around big cats. And they really don't want to deal with politicians or conferences or dealing with the public or any of that kind of stuff. So that was what really brought you up on my radar is like, here's this person, she's doing all this stuff on her own. I didn't even have to ask her to do it. And she's clearly not trying to impress me because she didn't even tell me she was doing it. So I was really impressed by that.
No, and that was the funny thing for us is when we talked about being from Big Cat Rescue, everyone would be like, oh, you're from there? So you guys have a booth? Like, do you do this? And we would have to say, well, so we're from Big Cat Rescue, but they didn't send us here to promote them. We are just doing that. So that got really interesting because everyone would expect, a big cat rescue kind of event going on there. And it was actually super mind-blowing to me because a lot of people were like, oh, so did you guys bring a tiger with you? And I thought, this is an animal rights conference. I don't know why you would think that's a good idea, but here's why it's not a good idea. And opened up a whole separate, discussion. And I really think that ended up a lot better than we could have hoped for, because we talked to a lot of people who had kind of no idea about any of that. It was crazy.
We should crash more parties.
Yeah, really.
So when and why did you go from being an intern to a volunteer? Because that's a kind of a different part of the program, and maybe describe what's different about it.
So it is different. It is a lot harder to go from being a volunteer to an intern, to get kind of out of that intern mindset. So as an intern, you are there at least 50 hours a week, and you constantly have to do things towards a schedule, and your job mainly is to do projects around the sanctuary. So the difference is that volunteers, come in and kind of have to be on a schedule, but it's a little more loose, and they can kind of leave whenever they feel like it. They can only come for half a day. They don't really have to do any of the bigger projects that any of us do, just because they are donating their time. And so when I made all of these friends, and Vanessa and I were just completely inseparable, and we just decided we would find a place to live, and we would move here, and we would just make this permanent. We just wanted to stay, so we decided to stay for volunteering. And at the time, we only had, I want to say, 2 levels of interning, and we had just added the 3rd. So basically, that's where you get to work with big cats. So we both went through that, and then we were like, well, now we get to work with all the cats, and now we're in love with all of the cats and all of the people, so we're definitely never leaving. You're stuck with us forever. Ha ha ha. And then switched over, and it was awesome because I could leave as a volunteer whenever I wanted to, but I also know kind of more what the work is that entails that goes on out there. So what the bigger things are that need to get done constantly, maintenance-wise and grounds-wise and all of that. And I have no problem helping with that. And it's really hard to... Our volunteers are great. I love all of them. I know there's probably some in here, and I definitely love you. It's really hard to stress that raking a cage is going to benefit Duchess rather than doing operant with her. It is going to benefit her. They both benefit her, but in a different way, and that is kind of hard to explain to people who haven't had to do it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard work. And if you think about, there's 2 different ways I can help her. Let me choose the one that might be more fun than the one that is going to keep the fleas off of her. So
yes,
it's a lot of work. I get the impression that once you became a volunteer here, and I don't know because we haven't talked about this, but once you became a volunteer here, I got the impression that you went out and got a job so that you could support the fact that you were a volunteer here. It wasn't like you went out and got your life's passion type of a job. Can you talk more about what that was like?
Yes, it was very glamorous. I was a server. So when we moved here, we moved to Dunedin. It's a really, really cute town over like 45 minutes away from Big Cat, on the coast by Clearwater. And I started out just an easy job to get for someone who likes to chat with people and is outgoing, is, in the service industry. And it started out to be just a quick thing, and we would find something else. But I ended up going from one really small restaurant to one of the biggest, oldest, well-known restaurants in town. It's called Casatina's, and it's been there forever, and everyone wants to work there, and it was a super fun place to work. And I mean, I don't know that anyone can say that they, love being a server, but I did really love the fact that I got to talk to all kinds of people from vacationing everywhere, and a lot of times, honestly, my conversations would lead back to here. Someone would be talking to me about why I came to the area or anything like that, and I'd be like, oh, well, Big Cat Rescue, we have tours. You should go there. You should call me. I can see if we can get on a tour. Like, here's some more information, and you didn't know about tigers, and they shouldn't be pet, and they shouldn't be put in circuses, and, well, how did you get into that? And then we would talk about that, and I think that was awesome in that respect, because while I was doing something that was definitely not what I came down here to do. I got to talk about it at least constantly to people, which was great.
And very helpful for us that all of our volunteers do get approached by people when they see the logo or they, something sparks the conversation about big cats. Most of you guys are really happy to talk about big cats, which is what keeps us going. So thank you so much for that. I don't remember, maybe you remember the year, but I'm thinking it was it 2020 when I had my gift shop manager quit and gave me like a week's worth of notice and I had to find somebody for the gift shop? Was it 2019 or 2020?
It was the end of 2019 when she quit, but then it would have been the beginning of 2020 when I started. So yeah, 2020.
So I was frantically looking around, who have we got that would be good in this role of gift shop manager? Because it's somebody who has to be really great with the public and cheerful and happy and wants to be sure that the customer is always right and always happy. And as I started looking around, you ticked off all of the boxes for me because you were hardworking, you were dedicated. You got the big picture that legislation is the most effective way to save the most cats. I think by then you had already taken on leadership roles as far as, you start out by leading projects and then you became a coordinator. Were you you were a coordinator by then, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And you play well with others. I never once had anybody come to me and say, I've got a problem with Erin. Nobody ever said that, ever. And you're always cheerful and you never complain. So how do you manage to do that despite all of the stressors involved in caring for these really dangerous and often very finicky, if you're trying to get them to take their meds or such, all of these really wild cats?
Well, I have a fabulous boss who says things that make me want to cry. So there's that. That's a good start.
Aw, all true.
And this is going to just sound probably super cliche, but the cats help a lot. I mean, if there's one that is being super finicky, there is one next door to them that is going to greet me with a nice chuff or a little purr and a smile. So I can kind of go for that. And then these people that I was really lucky to just get into this like little family with, they are a great support system. We all support each other. We're all here for the same reason. So if one thing is getting somebody down, everyone can just be like, but we're here for this reason, or we're doing this, or you can do it, you got this, or let me help you, let me talk to you about it. And then if anyone is familiar with the As Seen on TV product, the ShamWow, that really crazy washcloth thing for cleaning cars, it soaks up all the water. My wonderful boyfriend is that for me. He has this great ability to just be like, okay, you can tell me all of those things, and I'm just going to pretend like they just went right past me. And then so I bounce issues off of him, and then they just disappear forever, and I'm totally fine. And all of those together I'm just very lucky. I'm in a position with wonderful people and amazing animals, and that kind of gets me through anything.
Well, those were all the questions I had. Deb, I just now remembered that I forgot to ask if you were recording because I keep forgetting to record. Did you remember to record?
Yes, it's been on since before you joined. So yes, it's recording.
You are so much better at this than I am. So, Karen, I will hand this off to you because I know you have some questions, and I'm going to be listening in, but I'm going to be pretty quiet because I'm heading out on my bike. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carole. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I've been there so many times, and I don't know if you remember me, but of course I know you. So,
I do.
You do? Okay, good. So one thing, we have a couple of things in common, but I do have one question about what we have in common. First of all, I'm a Jersey girl too, but I'm hardly a girl. I'm a Jersey old woman. And so that's fun. But also, you said when you got to the property, you kind of had this feeling that that it was where you wanted to be, where you wanted to stay. And then the other thing we have, and I would have, but I live here with an entire family with kids, and I couldn't uproot everybody just because I wanted to volunteer at Big Cat Rescue. So I do it online. But The other thing that you said, so interesting to me, is that Carole actually said it, not you, about the legislation. That's me. I'm a fighter, and I know that it has to be done through the laws and bills and that kind of stuff. So that's how I actually got to be good friends with Jen Leon, because she taught me everything. And that's fascinating to me, that end of it. And I know it is hard to get those people out there they just want to see the cats. And I want to fight. Like, I want to get in there. I do protests, and I go to the state house when the bills are being voted on, so that I can be there while they're being voted on. I will go up to senators. I will go up to reps. I love that stuff. And I do realize that's the way to do things. So I don't want to ask too many questions, so I'm going to pick one of the two. I had one about that. The other, how did you know that there was a difference when you walked on property at Big Cat Rescue as compared to the other places where you were? And how did you know that place was where you wanted to be? Like, what was there one thing? Was it everything? I guess for me, it was Hoover and Hoover's story, and then meeting Hoover. But so I could say that was one thing for me. So if you could just tell me, what was it that made you know it was BCR for you?
So when I came down as an intern, and prior to my internship, to do my interview weekend, where we go on all the tours and we get to see feeding and all the projects, and you get to meet interns. I went on all of the tours, but during the keeper tour, the person who was leading the tour, who no longer volunteers with us, but she's fantastic, her name is Lisa, and she was not... It's really hard to describe. It's like she wasn't talking off of a script. She wasn't picking cats to give those little paper things that she had made or that we had made to, based on how she knew they would react. We had a few cats that she would even, be like, oh, well, I know he's not going to come out, but I'm just going to give it to him anyway, because later on he'll play with it. And she went around so naturally, and it was just, she was clearly in love with all of these animals. And I was just like, wow, these people at this place care, not that they're here for themselves and they think that it's, cool that they get to do this as a job, because it is super cool, but they were there for the cats. And the fact that all of our information had been, everyone talked about, we're making this bill and we're trying to tell people that, you shouldn't do this with animals and animals shouldn't be in circuses. That had already roped me in, because like you said, that's how you get things done, is by talking to people and doing kind of the administrative side of things. This woman had shown me that they were also there for the individual animals that were there. And I just thought that was so cool, because I have never seen that anywhere else. Even at shelters that I had volunteered at, it was like, oh, well, that's a cat and that's this cat. And, oh, I like this one, so I know their favorite things. She knew things about every single cat on the tour. And she would say, well, he doesn't like me, but I'm going to do this anyway. And he doesn't like me, but I give him treats because he deserves them, or something like that. I don't know. It was just incredible to me.
So you felt like it was genuine, like it was, and you felt maybe you felt like you knew you could get somewhere, get something done, like a feeling of, when you volunteer someplace, sometimes, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that you knew that you could move forward. There was somewhere for you to go and something for you to do for your, that you could accomplish.
Yes,
Maybe.
I thought that if there is a place that is going to get people to change their minds about the way animals need to be treated and the way that they need to be respected, this was the place to get that done. Because the people here just care enough about everything that's going on outside of Big Cat and on property that is how you show people. That's how you get them to listen to you and get them to relate the way that we relate with the animals.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that for me. I appreciate it, and thank you for all that you do. You're wonderful. Deb, I'll turn it over to you because I know you have to refresh to see who's next, or looks like Carole's still here too. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah. And actually, as you're doing that, Deb, there was one last thing that I forgot to mention, and that is that when COVID hit, we had to let go half of our staff, including Jennifer Leon. And so all of us ended up having to take on twice as many jobs. And so Erin took over a role as the part-time operations manager. So she does it part of the time, and Afton does it part of the time. So she has really gone as high as you can go in this organization.
All right. I have called people up on the stage that I thought might like to speak. If I did not ping you in and you would like to speak or ask a question, in the bottom right, you will see a little hand raising thing. You can raise your hand and we will call you up on stage. And also, if everyone will pull their screen down and let it refresh, then that is the order so we all see the same order, and that way I'm calling people in the order that I see them and you see them as well. So Joyce, you are the first one I see. Did you have a question or a comment for Erin?
Yeah. Hey, Erin, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. So, it's funny because when I started being able to work at Big Cat every day for weeks on end, one of the things that people would ask me was, what is the hardest thing you do physically? And I would say, wrapping up hoses. Now, no one else would think about that, but I know you can relate to the hoses that, trying to wrap them up. And then they would say, well, what do you like about it? And I'd say, well, I can't really do that much because I'm still being trained, but I am able to pick up cat poop. And they really thought, you got to be nuts, lady, because, why would anybody want to wrap up hoses and pick up cat poop? So I don't think I would ever be able to, maybe not live long enough, but certainly not train long enough to do any of the, really fun things with the big cats. But what would you say is your hardest thing that you have to do in all the jobs that you carry right now?
Oh, that is very tough because a lot of it I think I take for granted that it's easier, that I feel like it's easier than it actually is. So Carole mentioned earlier that I became a coordinator before becoming staff, and even before that, so I was volunteering on Thursdays, which when we had tours was the day that we were not open to the public. So a lot of times if a cat needed something medical, this was prior to us doing like the regular kind of medical Mondays that we were doing for a while, the vets would come on a Thursday. And I was there several times on that type of day where the cat, whoever the cat was, for one reason or another, did not make it through that, medical procedure. And I just sort of started becoming the second person to go with the coordinator to kind of individually let every volunteer on property know that that's what had happened. And then so when I became a coordinator and was working Medical Mondays, I again had to fulfill that role, and I would kind of go and let everybody know what happened and how the cat was doing or not doing. And as many times as that has happened and as many times as we have had to deal with that, it never gets any easier. And I would say that is still the hardest thing. Anything physical that I have done on property does not compare to how difficult it is to talk to people about one of their friends dying. I'll be honest. Sorry, that took a real downward turn, but I really think that's my answer.
Well, I think just the fact that as you know, Perfection was my favorite, and I happened to be working on property when Perfection died, and I was absolutely devastated, and tried to rise, to take the higher ground and say, well,
Well, it's not about you, Joyce. It's about the cat. The cat's happy, etc. So I can relate to that. And I was, just as you were answering, I was thinking, physically, probably the people that work all the time never think about the physical hardships, what other people think are hardships, because you have to be strong physically to exist. I mean, when I came home after one day and said to Ted, "Guess what? I raked for 6 hours." He said, "Really? You raked for 6 hours?" There's a lot of, you have to be willing to do a lot of physical tasks that don't actually have anything to do with the cats. And I relish those opportunities. So I'll let other people ask questions, but it was great talking to you again. I will see you soon.
Yay, I hope that you do come back soon. Thank you.
Daniel, you are next. Did you have a question or a comment for Erin?
Well, I'm so happy to be talking with Erin. He's like a superstar over a big cat. I have two questions, if I may. One, who is your favorite present cat at Big Cat, and who is your favorite cat that has passed over the bridge?
I was dreading this question. I always have to pick in threes because I cannot do a single cat. That does not work for me for some reason. So hopefully you're okay with that answer.
That's fine.
Right? Okay. So present would be Simba Tiger and Duchess and Future. And then past would have been a tiger named Keisha and a lynx named Natasha, and then another tiger named Alex.
All right. And my other question would be, hopefully I'm not thinking of somebody else. You get to work with Simba Savannah in the cabana, and I've watched you on the feed, and I know sometimes his mood changes. Sometimes he's happy, sometimes he's sad. So can you explain what it's like to work with Bannacat on a somewhat daily basis?
Oh, it is very scary. I don't know if any of you ever pay attention to my face when he comes up real close, because he likes to do that, but I have like a very, very frightened face on because he is very scary for such a small cat. I cannot imagine having one in your house. He is so unpredictable. Even when he seems like he's going to be totally fine, if you make some kind of sudden movement, he will just all of a sudden try and bite you, and it is very just all over the place with that. He'll be purring and then be like, "Nope, I just want to hit you in the face." And so he likes to come in hot, and you kind of just have to stand there and wait for him to do whatever he's doing and then lose interest in you and walk away, because that cat gets very dangerous. And that's actually why it's me and Afton and then the other two on-site staff, Brittany and Lauren, who take care of him. And that's the only reason. Afton and I just didn't want to have to send volunteers in there because we didn't want anyone to get hurt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I figured that question was coming, Erin.
He's so scary for such a small cat.
All right. Tammy, did you have a question or a comment for Erin?
Had to remember to take the microphone off. Yes, hi, Erin.
Hi.
I'm just going to reference last week when you had a gazillion volunteers that you had to coordinate. And you did it with grace and candor and were amazing. But as a coordinator, what is the one thing that we, and I'm going to talk as not a volunteer myself, but the people that follow us, what can they do to help you out with your volunteers? I know a lot of them send in snacks and stuff for the volunteers, and Deb is great at, putting out the message, like the SOS is like, hey, we need this, we need that. For you as a coordinator, on those days, or just as a volunteer yourself there, what is it that you would like to see happen that would make the job easier for the ones that are trying to lead all of us in that rat race that we do every single day to make sure those cats are happy?
Well, I know that as coordinators, we are all there to support all of you guys who come in. So thank you. Last week when I had a ton of people, it was awesome because everyone was there to help out, and that was great. So I think that one of the things we have going on is a fund for lunches for the volunteers. So we usually do kind of quarterly, or more often than quarterly, parties to try and kind of pep everybody up and remind them, that we're all here for the same reason, and we're all friends, and we all want to, support each other. And we haven't been able to do that because of COVID. And so since my job is to be the support for the people who are coming in every day to help out, and that's what coordinators ultimately are there for. I think that if we had more people know about that fund and could maybe promote it a little bit and donate it to it, that would be great, because it's always awesome when we get to be like, hey, we got you food, or we got you ice cream, or anything kind of little and surprise like that. Although the snacks and the drinks and everything, and when you guys send bug spray and all that stuff, that is fabulous. So that's really just great.
Thank you.
And if anybody in the audience is interested in what Erin was just talking about with providing lunch, you can go to bigcatrescue.biz, and if you search under shops, or I kind of forget now how it's labeled, shops, or what does it say, Erin? Anyway, if you just search for donation, the donation page, there's all kinds of things listed under there, and one of them is to feed a keeper, and you can donate, enough to feed everybody for the day, or just, $10 towards a meal, because it costs about $10 per meal per keeper.
Is it on our wish list page?
No, it's not. It's not on the wish list page. It's on the where the donations are, like where the maintenance donation is, and and those. So you can donate towards that, and it is, if you're in any of our Big Cat Rescue groups, it is pinned at the top of our groups. I keep it pinned up there, so you can find it there as well. But that is a really good way to be able to thank the keepers where they've not been able to have their quarterly parties since COVID hit. Bella, did you have a question or a comment? You're next.
Hi, kind of both. Erin, one, thank you first and foremost for taking care of the cats, loving them, giving them the respect they deserve every day, no matter rain, hurricane, tornado, anything of the above. Thank you for that. And my question would be, on the rehab team, when you guys are working with it, which cat was your favorite release, and which one was your most memorable that you remember being, whether it's your first or the one that touched you the most?
So I have only been on the rehab team for about a year. I want to just let you know, because I feel like that's fair. But I have been lucky enough to be on several releases, and I think so. My most memorable release was, I think, Thorn, just because he kind of came out in the wrong direction, and we were all stunned because he was facing towards us, and we kind of had to be like, no, go the other way. So that was crazy, because usually they just shoot out of the box. Up until then, I'd only seen cats kind of just shoot right into the woods or wherever we were aimed. And then the cat so far that has really, really stuck with me is Little Tiny Summer. We started off real rough this year. We had Kahira and all of those cute babies, and they unfortunately passed away. And then Kahira was doing very badly, but then we got Summer, and everything that could possibly go wrong with that cat went wrong. And I have no idea how Jamie has been able to do this for this long, because I would have had breakdowns every day if I had that cat. And she has just pushed through, and now she's being a little aggressive baby bobcat, and I'm so proud of her, and I can't wait to see her get released. She's just incredible.
I agree. Summer is, and thank you so very much.
Thanks.
Leilani, you are next. Do you have a question or comment for Erin?
Sure, yes, thank you. Erin, first, I enjoyed seeing you on some of the live feeds. So I thank you again for everything. So question, and I heard Brittany talk also a couple of weeks ago, and my question was related to the ranks. So, because I'm still getting to know the ranks. So at what point do people become coordinator and operations manager? Is that after master keeper? And also my second question is how long, I'm kind of clear on, like, it takes about 6 years to become master keeper at a minimum, but then how does it work to become coordinator and then operations manager? So how does, once you reach a certain point, then how does it go to reach, where you are right now?
So that is a great question. I didn't even mention anything when I was talking about my internship. So the interns they mirror the volunteer program. So with volunteers, I'm sure you guys already know, we have a red shirt, yellow, green, navy, purple. And then the internship is the same way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 and 2 would be your red and yellow. 3 and 4 is going to be a green shirt, and then 5 is navy and purple, just to cover that aspect. And then so for volunteers, you are a trainee, which is a red shirt, for 2 months, just so we can kind of get you acclimated. You can figure out if it works for your schedule. Honestly, that's what happens a lot of the times. If someone decides that they can't volunteer, that's the reason, is just because it doesn't always work out with your schedule. We require, because we're working with such dangerous animals, we require a certain number of hours a month, and some people just can't find that time, which is totally understandable. And then after 2 months, you can move on to start working with little cats, which would be yellow level cats. So you would be a yellow shirt. And that is going to be lynx and smaller, so all the hybrids and the bobcats and servals. And then you would be a yellow shirt for a year. It has to be at least a year, but you also have to progress through all of our training on yellow shirt level activities. So you would have to complete your cleaning, certification, and enrichment, and then feeding, and then operant with that level cat. Then you can apply to be a green shirt. And then once you've completed all of the training with the green level cats, if you are a green shirt for 2 years and have completed all of your training, you can apply to be a coordinator. If you are a green shirt for 4 years and have completed all of your training, you can apply to be a master keeper. So you could be a coordinator before you become a master keeper, just with the amount of time that we require. We are very selective with our master keeper and our coordinators, just because of the cats that you work with. We have Manny and Kimba on that list. Both are just very active, very smart, much more dangerous, and not as old as some of our other cats. And then operations manager, that was just me being in the right place at the right time. I never even imagined that was going to happen. I got extremely lucky, I think, in that respect. The other kind of roles that I'm fulfilling, I had gone after those, like the gift shop manager, and then I also run the volunteer program, which I've always wanted to do since I moved down here. But operations manager is just incredible, and the way you get to do that is just to be here and be working for the cats and have awesome people supporting you and wanting you to do that. I don't have solid advice on that, because it just kind of happened, I'll be honest.
Well, I think it kind of happened because, as she just mentioned, she took over the gift shop role, and then she took over the training role. So even though most of us took on our job plus some other person's job, Erin took on 3 jobs, because then she also took on operations. And it was like, hey, if she can do it, if she's got the stamina, if she's okay with doing it, then we are all on board with it. So thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Yeah, I did not, go down here and say, oh, you know what, one day I'm going to have Carole's job. But now that's my only move. That's the only way I can go.
And I'm thinking about it.
So thank you. That's a great question.
Thank you. That explains it a lot better. Thank you.
And I didn't mean to jump in on you, Lalani, so if you want to come back on, that's fine too. If you had a follow-up question or anything. Could you also, Erin, talk about all of the committees and groups that you participate in? And you just recently did a huge overhaul of the training program as far as Google Sites crapping out on us.
Yeah, so I decided that I was going to also dabble in computer programming this year because I just got it in my head that I could figure out anything that I decide to figure out. So we have a number of committees at Big Cat Rescue that kind of oversee how our operations are going from day to day. We have an enrichment committee, and that is, you guys probably know, Afton's ahead of that because she does all the filming. So she has, they decide what they're going to make for enrichment and what they're going to hand out and what kind of cats can have what and all of that. And then we have an operant committee, which Brittany and Lauren are on, and that oversees the operant program. And then we have an appreciation team. That is what I am the head of. So we organize the lunches for the volunteers. We're the ones who would do all the parties. Anything that deals with kind of volunteer morale, that's us. And it's great because I have a great team of very peppy, very happy people who are always willing to answer questions and help out. So that's been fabulous. And we have a volunteer committee. That's not as fun to be on. It mostly deals with any kinds of issues volunteers are having health-wise or, if they need any kind of policy refresher or retraining or anything like that. And I'm on that. All of the coordinators are on that. Carole and Jamie are part of that. Coordinators also kind of are in a group and we go through things and discuss things, and Afton and I bounce ideas off of everybody for those. And our internal site, as Carole just mentioned, is run by Google, and they decided that they were no longer going to let us use it the way that Big Cat has been using it since before I even got there. So I went to Carole and I said, all this stuff is going to change. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. So I just kind of came up with this. And she said, that's great. Run with it. So I have been changing all of our internal kind of processing, like where we track the cats' charts and their behavior, and we submit any information on them or all of our training documents and everything like that to Workplace. So Workplace is an awesome website that is run by Facebook, so it looks exactly like Facebook, but we use it and we only have Big Cat Rescue on there, so we have all of our own groups, all of our own pages. It's awesome. It's a really great way to connect everybody, and so we've been moving everything to be there, to be more user-friendly. We use Google programs. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them, but they work kind of the same way that Microsoft Office does. They are internet-based, though, so they are great because they work on every platform. We really like Apple products at Big Cat. All the staff members have Apple computers and everything, but a lot of people don't, and the programs that Google puts out can be used on both, so that's been awesome. So we use all of that for all of our communications, for everything, because we keep records on everything. We even have tabs for if a cat is acting weird. Like if they normally come up to you and purr at you and today they hissed at you, we have a way to keep track of that just so that we can keep tabs on their health.
It's Erin.
Hi.
I have a good question that kind of pertains to how I got to know all of you on staff and the cats, is that I did tours all the time. So I wondered what you feel about not having tours. How has it changed life on property, and how about for yourself?
That is a great question, because a lot of times people just ask about how we're able to kind of survive day to day without tours. No one ever asks how it's affected anybody. It is weird. I will say that. It's very weird. I came from, obviously I was an intern, and that was tours. I had all of the words memorized and could say them in my sleep. But now we don't have any of that. I mean, we have volunteers who have come in who haven't even been on a tour. I don't know. I am enjoying it. And I think a lot of the volunteers and staff are, just because it has given us a lot of time to get other projects done. You know, tours in the afternoon, that took up, we eat lunch at 1 o'clock. So then right at 2 o'clock when everybody's done, that's when we would kind of start having people roll in. And then the afternoon is done after that. So that's been really nice. You know, we've been able to get cages done more regularly. We've been able to keep up with things like that. And I think it's also put a lot less stress on volunteers and interns, because they're not scrambling to get their tour sign-offs. They're not scrambling to get things done and then also be able to do tours. Last year during Christmas, usually we have to pack volunteers and interns in, and we have to do extra tours every day, and it's just mania. And that didn't happen, and interns got to go home and kind of see their families for Christmas, which is completely unheard of, because they would be needed for tours. So that's been nice. I am also a little concerned anytime people come on property, or the idea of people coming on property, just because unfortunately after Tiger King we've had such a wide variety of people who just either want to take photos of everything because they think that we're lunatics, or because they think, I don't know, all kinds of horrible things, and I don't want to expose volunteers or the cats to any of that. So it is nice to not have to worry about that aspect, but it was also really great to make sure that people knew about the bill and people could make the call of the wild. I mean, that's what we're here for, and that we lost that. So hopefully we can kind of recoup using just social media and completely, you know, just trying to promote it still. But I don't know what to think going forward. I don't know that a lot of people would be comfortable with random people coming on property all the time. I mean, the donor tours are really nice, and those have been really great, so I'm glad that we put those back in.
Yes, I was going to say that. It is nice to have the donors probably on property. But that answers my question. Thank you. I know it is strange for us, too, because the people that are used to coming all the time haven't been able to. But thank you. I know it has been scary for all of you as well. So safety is the most important thing. Deb, I think you had someone else. We had one more question. I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you.
So I have a question for Erin, if I may. Leilani. So actually 2 quick questions I didn't get to ask. So how has Loki been doing since he went outside after being in the cabana last year? And I also, because I love Manny, how is his pool coming along, and when do you anticipate that we might see the end product? Because I'm really excited to see that.
Loki is doing so well. He is the most social that I've ever seen him. When I walk over to his cage, I don't ever feed him, just to give you an idea of how different this is. Never feed him, pretty much ever, because, you know, volunteers will feed him. And when I walk over to his cage, he is right over the side of his cage like, hey, you got stuff for me? No snacks? All right, cool. I'm just going to hang out here and watch you and go about my day. So that's been great. And then the pool is looking awesome. I last saw it on Thursday, so maybe Carole has a better idea of kind of what a time frame is, but I know that they were putting on the second to last coat of concrete when I saw them on Thursday. It looks awesome. It's huge.
They're saying that they think they can get it finished in the next week, which I think probably translates to 3 weeks, but still, that's good.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him back on camera, so that would be great.
All right, we have two more people that have joined us up on stage that have questions, Erin. Mandy, you are next. Did you have a question or a comment for Erin?
I do. I would love to know if there's anything, well, when you used to have free time, because now you're doing so many things there, that you would see in movies or books that is just wildly inaccurate when it comes to the care of big cat, like rescue and sanctuaries that you wish would be corrected. It's just something that, I do it right, and it's one of those things that it's not super easy for me to find out all of the details on, but I would love to know if there's anything that you see that just makes you cringe.
Can I tell you, and this does not have to deal with the care or anything, but for some reason what really bothers me is when they use a tiger roar and they have footage of a lion. I don't know why that has always irritated me, but that big roar that you see, like even the MGM logo, that is a tiger. Lions do not roar like that. They roar for territory, and for some reason that has always bothered me. And I don't know that answers your question, but it is constantly, if you look out for it, it's all the time. I mean, using animals in film anyway is awful, but even with CG stuff, when they use that, it bothers me.
Thank you so much, yes.
Mary, did you have a question or a comment for Erin?
Sure do. Well, you were talking about the changes for the volunteers with not having groups coming through. How has it changed for the cats? Have you noticed a difference in their behavior?
I've noticed that they are, so we usually tell people, and we still do say this because it's generally kind of a rule, that all of the cats sort of sleep the afternoon away. And while that's true, I have noticed that there are cats out sort of all day that previously would have just been in their den in the afternoon. And I don't know for sure because I can't ask them, obviously, but that's because of tours. But I feel like it's definitely possible. I mean, now there's no one that they have to look out for or that they have to worry about, walking around, so they can just kind of sit out in their pool and relax or look off into the lake. And I will say, changing from, we used to speak on the tours, the tour guides used to talk, and Carole changed us over to automated, which was a great idea for a number of reasons. But one of the reasons was that it made the tours less loud, and I noticed an increase in cats sort of being active through the day through that as well. So I can only assume that this is why it's happening more still.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Erin, I think I hear a purr in the background. Do you have kitties at home?
I do. When I wouldn't pet him, now he wants to leave because he's mad. I have Thomas O'Malley and I have Eleanor Rigby. Those are my cats. And then I have a dog named Josie because she's Josie and the Pussycats. And then recently, I don't know if anyone knows Lauren that's on here or if she's seen her little dogs that her and her wife are fostering, but I just let one of them stay the night because my awesome landlord told me that I could get a second dog, and I think we're going to adopt her. So I'm super excited about that.
So that's going to leave you with 2 cats and 2 dogs? Or
2 cats and 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. They also help me get through everything whenever, everybody's being difficult. It's great to just have little animals that are just there for you whenever you need them,
Yeah. Cats that you can pet, right?
Yes. Cats that I can, even if sometimes they don't want me to.
All right. Karen, did you have any other questions or comments? Oh, Karen. Maybe Karen stepped away.
Or anyone.
Yeah, or anyone.
I mean, I can just talk for 2 straight minutes. Give me a time. Oh, do you know what? You know what else bothers me about animals in film? Is anytime they have any kind of remotely wild animal and they're just like, oh yeah, this is so-and-so, I'm going to tame them, or I can't think of specific examples, so that's not super helpful, but I know that I refuse to watch The Greatest Showman because I don't understand why you would want to even pretend to train them. How can I train Duchess to do anything? She does whatever she wants all day. You guys see that on the cameras. It's crazy to me.
Hey, Deb, it's Daniel. I do have another question for Erin. You mentioned that one of your favorite cats at Big Cat is Simba Tiger. He's my favorite too. What's your favorite thing about Simba Tiger, or favorite things, if you can't narrow it down?
Oh yeah, did you get his toy for him? Because I love that. We moved it over to his new cage. So
That would be.
yeah, okay, great. My favorite thing about him, he just doesn't really seem to be bothered by a whole lot. And I envy that. It's great. I walk up to that cat and he is just like, hi, the day has been great. I'm hanging out in my pool. Everything's fabulous. I don't know. He just has such a nice calming energy. You know, I go over to Duchess and she is always amped up and she's like ready to play and run around. And Simba just is, he's there. And he's super friendly, and he just is so content and seems just so happy with his life here. And I'm so happy that we could give that to him. And it makes me so happy. My heart just bursts when I look at him.
I know, he was the first cat I sponsored at Big Cat. I just made that immediate connection. He just seems like a special soul in a cat.
He does. Thank you.
Carole, did you have any last words?
Just that next week we are going to do something different. We will be here on Clubhouse, as always, on Saturday at 6 p.m. But on the 9th, and we were supposed to try and do this for Erin, so I wasn't able to make it happen. But they said they can get it done by next Saturday, and Lauren Buckingham will be the person that we'll be talking to then. It will be the opportunity for anyone who wants to join us over on Cameo to join a Cameo live call. And what's different about Cameo is we'll be on Clubhouse and on Cameo at the same time. And on Cameo, I can actually see anybody who buys a ticket to the front row seat, which would be $10 per person. And when we call you up on the stage, everybody can see your video and hear you, as well as being able to hear you over here on Clubhouse. So we'll send out an invite to everybody ahead of time, maybe in the description for next week. Once we have that link, we'll put it here on Clubhouse so that you can join us in Clubhouse or on Cameo. That's all I had. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And Erin, thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, and thank all of you guys. You are awesome. All the online admins. We could not do half the things that we do for the cats without you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Carole.
Thank you,
Deb.
Thank you guys for joining. I'm so glad you guys were all here tonight. We had a good crowd in the room. Erin, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking your time to come talk to us. I learned a lot.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
All right. Everybody have a good night, and we will see you next week with Lauren Buckingham as our guest.
Yay!
Everybody can open your mic and say thank you to Erin.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.